Greetings, friends. Today, I will tell you a fascinating story, the story of Medusa. Who was Medusa? She was the priestess of Athena. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare. She was a beautiful priestess, but she was cursed by Athena. It is believed that the priestess of Athena should be virgin. But our Medusa had an affair with the sea god Poseidon. It is also believed that Poseidon raped Medusa. Whatever it is, she was punished. She became a monster. Instead of hair, she has venomous snakes. Those who gazed into her eyes would turn to stone. Later, the warrior Perseus killed Medusa by slaying her head. This is the story of Medusa. The story is reinterpreted by many writers, especially modern feminist writers. One such writer is Helene Cixous. You may have heard about Helene Cixous, the Jewish Algerian French woman critic, the post-structural feminist writer writing under the sign of deconstruction. She was a close friend of Jacques Derrida. Cixous explicates the myth of Medusa's annihilation as men's attempt to mute the voice of women. She has written the famous essay, The Laugh of Medusa, in 1975. The most important word related to Helene Cixous is a creature feminine. She argues that the utter history of writing has been one of phallocentric tradition which hamper women to think, create and innovate. Men have dominated religion, science and logic. She urges women to shatter this tradition, the masculine tradition. So she has created a new genre of writing that is a creature feminine. She also argues that there is a close relationship between women's bodies and their writing. Women's bodies are the direct basis of female writing. She also encourages women to write in white ink, which is a metaphor for good mother's milk. These are the points she has discussed in the essay Laugh of Medusa. Now let's move on to some objective type questions.
Helene Cixous is widely considered one of the preeminent French intellectuals writing under the sign of dash, deconstruction. She is a close friend of Derrida. Derrida, the Algerian born French philosopher who developed the philosophy of deconstruction. Écriture feminine or women's writing is a term coined by French feminist and literary theorist Helene Cixous in her 1975 essay, The Laugh of Medusa. Dash is about the representation of the feminine body as a path towards thought, a thought that would question the foundations of male centric thinking. It is écriture feminine. Cixous deconstructs dash and dash. Freud's theory of the castration complex and the Lacanian theory of the symbolic order in the development of language. Medusa was killed by Dash by slaying her head, Perseus. Helene Cixous encourages women to write in dash, which is a metaphor for the good mother's milk. Helene Cixous encourages women to write in white ink. Cixous believes that the women are closer to dash and far from the stability, fixed meanings and reason. Women are closer to imagination and fantasies. Cixous argues in her essay that the utter history of writing has been one of dash, which has contributed to hamper women to think, create, and innovate. It is phallocentric tradition. The utter history of writing has been one of phallocentric tradition. Medusa's Head, written by Dash, is a very short, posthumously published essay on the subject of the Medusa's myth. Medusa's Head is written by Sigmund Freud. In Helene Cixous' opinion, Dash lays the foundation for a precarious biological discrimination and prejudice against women. It is Freud. Phallocentrism is a term first used by the Freudian psychoanalyst Dash to focus his disagreement with Freud's theory of the female sexual identity as being marked by the lack of the phallus, a sense, in other words, of their castration. Phallocentrism is a term first used by Ernest Jones. Laughing with Medusa, classical myth and feminist thought, is written by Eleanor Gorman and Wanda Sachko. Women would manifest themselves through dash rather than the prose which contains ordinary and coded language. Women would manifest themselves through poetry. Cixous deconstructs Freud's theory of dash complex, castration complex. Next, let me remind you some important works in this field. First one, The Second Sex, published in 1949 by Simone de Beauvoir. Simone de Beauvoir, the French existentialist philosopher, writer, social theorist, and feminist activist. She was best known for her work, The Second Sex. It's a detailed analysis of women's oppression and a foundational tract of contemporary feminism. Next is Betty Friedan, The Feminine Mystic, published in 1963. Betty Friedan, the American feminist writer and activist, a leading figure in the women's movement in United States. The feminine mystique is often credited with sparking the second wave of American feminism in the 20th century. Next, Luz Irigaray, Speculum of the Other Women, 1974. Luz Irigaray, the Belgian-born French philosopher, feminist, linguist, psycholinguist, and cultural theorist. The Speculum of the Other Women analyzes the texts of Freud, Plato, Aristotle, etc. through the lens of phallocentrism. Next is Elaine Showalter, A Literature of Their Own, British women novelists from Bronte to Lessing, published in 1977. Elaine Showalter, the American literary critic and feminist. So that is the end of this section. Thank you.